welcome back from holiday.
Hi. Do you know, it's like I've never been away.
Oh, stop. Oh, stop. Well, you happened to take a bit of a break
I
during
did.
Volunteer Appreciation Month. I don't know if you knew this, but you didn't schedule around it, obviously. You had to go to Disney during Volunteer Appreciation Month.
Is it a
So,
whole month? Is it a whole month?
so this is what I found out. There's a day,
Uh-huh.
there's a week, and there's a month.
I know this is only in the US we're talking about, though, isn't it? Because I know that
I guess
volunteer
so.
volunteer week in the UK is, I think, June, I think.
Okay. Well,
So,
let's
okay.
be honest. For Association Transformation, our guest appreciation, volunteer appreciation is
365.
365, 24/7.
365. Yeah, I hear you. I was thinking that when you
So,
said it. I'm like, what, just a month?
right,
Just a
just a
month?
month.
Yeah. No.
So it's anyway, I thought, welcome you back, get you back in the swing of things, warm you back up with a nice gentle topic of
Hmm.
of how we celebrate our volunteers in sincere and meaningful ways
Hmm.
and how we celebrate and thank volunteers who may not be that great.
It's interesting because, well, yes, I mean, it's because I was also thinking how we are sometimes don't celebrate and acknowledge our volunteers. It's interesting.
We
I know
don't.
this is
We
Volunteer
don't enough.
Appreciation Week. I know this is all about appreciation, and actually, I think it does highlight an issue across the sector, wherever you are in the world. I think this does highlight an issue around sort of the business model in the membership sector. And it's funny, I was chatting with somebody earlier on about this, saying that there's not many other industries or many sectors where the core value proposition is so heavily reliant on such a large voluntary workforce.
Yeah, yeah.
Charity sector, yes, absolutely. But then beyond that, where else can you imagine putting a service or product out the door, marketed it and saying, "Hey, this is amazing. By the way, it's been delivered by somebody who's doing it in their spare time. Doing it on the side of the
It's
desk.
not
It's
the most
remarkable."
sustainable business model. It's not the most sustainable
No.
thing. And it makes volunteering all that much more necessary.
Yeah.
Uh, I like to think of it as they're your season ticket holders, right? And they're giving of their time. They're
Hmm.
they're they're choosing you as their team. They want to be involved. They want to be a part of the community, and you have to thank them in a way that makes them feel special, makes them feel like they're part of that community, and gets them coming back.
Yeah.
They're not spending their money, they're not buying tickets, but they're giving maybe the most valuable commodity, which is their time and their expertise
Hmm.
in areas of industry subject matter or whatever it may be. So I am often scared for clients who have their educational content completely delivered by and developed by volunteers, or they
Yeah.
have all speakers, all event and program
Yeah.
content being delivered by volunteers, only because it's uncertain, it's unstable. They're real people in real lives. They have other jobs.
Yeah.
But they it also shows how amazing they are,
A hundred
how amazing
percent.
volunteers are.
100%. And yeah, absolutely. And to reflect back on that, I don't know another sector where so much could be achieved and is
Yeah,
being achieved on the back of goodwill, energy, and enthusiasm of volunteers. I mean,
yeah,
it's understated. I think the
yeah,
value and the impact of volunteering is understated in
yeah.
the membership sector. And I think it's interesting when you talk about, we're saying 365, 24/7, but, I know this is all about, a month, but actually, how do we, how do we, how do we celebrate, or how should we celebrate volunteers? Is it a case of, showering them with accolades, or is it something more tangible? Should we be actually thinking, well, as part of our volunteer strategies, when we're acknowledging them, what does that acknowledgement actually, or should that acknowledgement look like? Is a thank you
I think we're
enough?
talking about different buckets here. I think we're talking
Okay.
about acknowledgement
Yeah.
and elevating that volunteer for what they're doing, what they're giving, what they're expert at. I
Hmm.
think then you are celebrating and thanking them, that's different.
Yes. Yeah.
You're whether it's a gift, whether it's an award, whether it's a certificate, whatever it is, that's the thanking of, that's the appreciation. And then I think there is some maybe reciprocity payment. I
Yeah.
mean, I just finished a stint on an ASAE committee, the Gold Circle Awards, and
Uh,
I was blown away by how committed the volunteers were. I mean, they're serving as the marketing agents for this awards program. They're serving as judges. They're serving as basically the they're executing this huge awards program, and you're being celebrated. You're given a badge to put on your social media accounts. You're being thanked, and then there was the gift of a discount to an upcoming conference, and that was greatly appreciated.
mm.
So I think we're talking about three different buckets here,
Oh my God,
where
it's
you're
already now gone from two to three. Oh my
did
Lord.
I say two to
We
start?
started
Okay,
with
yeah, it's
two.
three. It's three. It's three. It's three. I mean, you're elevating them as experts, you're
Yeah.
thanking them as volunteers and contributors, and then
Hmm.
you're rewarding them
Yeah. Yeah.
for, I don't want to say pain, but you're rewarding them for their
For their
time. And I
efforts and their time. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm working with a client right now, and we're hosting focus groups in preparation for strategic planning. And they have built into their operating policies that they pay their members
Uh-huh.
for their volunteer time of a certain length or a certain requirement.
Yeah.
And I haven't worked with many clients like that who have that policy built in and have budgeted for the engagement of members.
No, no, you're right. And again, it's funny you mentioned this actually, because this is linking back to this conversation I had this morning with a colleague who's wanting to come up with a program, almost like a circular economy, if you like, where they recognize the value and the input and the impact of members as volunteers. They recognize that what they're contributing into the association translates as a value proposition that comes out of the association. So they're wanting to recognize that, and they're wanting to sort of put together a more cohesive proposition for volunteers than simply, hey guys, we need to do something and can you put your hand up and help us do it type model, which is, the predominantly, what we see. I think people are beginning to be more sophisticated in their approach to volunteering. Because as much as and I laud and I celebrate and I acknowledge the efforts of thousands of people who give up thousands and thousands, millions of hours over of time to to delivering activity. It is a massive red light for me. It's a massive warning light for
Yeah.
me when I see people, because if I and hello to our friends at ASAE, and I'm not criticizing you guys because you do some tremendous work. However, a whole program that is predicated on the efforts of a volunteer team, almost 100%. That tells me that actually, should that program actually be going ahead as a branded ASAE program? Because
If
if they
if
don't,
it's enough of a priority to have it, why aren't they investing
and if they don't
internal
have the
resources in it?
resources, if they don't have the internal resources, the internal capacity to do it, which is fine, should we then be, launching a whole piece that's based around 100% membership volunteering?
And it's not 100%, there are staff members, but I think
Okay.
there is some credibility and sincerity around a program like that, an awards program that is kind of by your peers.
I hear you. Yeah.
So I think
By
that may
peers
be a
for peers. Yeah.
special circumstance. But
Yeah.
but what you're saying, I mean, there are these ways that we go about getting volunteers, casting these wide nets. Anybody who wants to be a part of this, put your name in the hat. So
Mm.
we're not exactly skills matching. We're basically taking heartbeats. Anyone with a heartbeat will take.
Yeah. We're so
And
grateful. We're so grateful that you
we're
volunteered.
so
So yeah.
grateful that you're
Yeah.
breathing and willing to give of yourself. And then there's the voluntold.
Yes.
There's those that get that, and then there's those blatant calls for help, which
Mm.
are a red flag often because it means that preparatory stage of outreach to those who may be best suited, or having an infrastructure around how an initiative is going to be delivered or a program be
Yeah.
managed. with or without volunteers. I don't know the word volunteer. I feel like it was a couple years ago. The word volunteer was people wanted to find a new word for it because it's come to have such a negative connotation.
Really?
Don't you
Really?
think?
I think that I think words like volunteerism has quite a negative connotation, and I have very strong views around as you know, around the conflict that can often materialize between volunteers and staff, and it brings into whole question around professionalism, etc. But I don't think, I mean, personally, I think I see. I'm trying to think. All my clients and everyone I work with, they still gladly embrace, volunteering as a highly positive experience. Where I struggle, where they are struggling, I think where it does have it is starting to have grey areas, negative connotations. Is I've had this conversation a few times in the past few months, which is where people are saying, when I've asked, so what are your members getting? What is the value proposition? Right, I'm paying my membership fee. What do I get? And you know the number of people who say, "Oh, well, then you get an opportunity to volunteer." And you think, "Hang on a minute." So
Yeah.
you're wanting people to pay a membership fee
And then
to
give you
to
their
then
free
do
time and
work
labor.
for you. So they want us to pay to work for you,
Right.
and that's where I think it becomes this fudge, this hodgepodge of actually we've got quite fundamental business problems, business
Yeah.
management problems, and our model isn't fit
And a
for
value
purpose.
proposition problem.
And a value, absolutely, 100%.
There's an
Yeah, hundred
arrogance to that
percent.
that mindset that you just described. There's a great arrogance to that. And that's maybe where I don't like the word volunteer because I
Yeah,
see so many good volunteers who are over over they're
overused.
called upon to,
Yeah,
yeah, they're
overused.
they're
This, yeah.
overused, they're
Hmm.
exploited, maybe too strong of a word because obviously they're saying yes to a certain extent. But I would rather be considered a subject matter expert. I would rather be considered
Yeah, yeah. I hear you.
a
Yeah.
contributor or a panelist or the role that I'm giving to, not some open-ended blank check of time and energy that you get to draw upon at any time. And I
Yeah, no,
should thank you
yeah.
for it.
Yeah, and I should pay you for it. Yeah, I should pay you for that privilege. And I think you're right there. I think there's also, I am starting to see a shift in people's understanding and appreciation of actually, it, are we better to have, 50 active volunteers, but they are stretched to the limit and they're exhausted and they're working till midnight every night at the end at the side of their desk getting this done, and ultimately they're flagging and they're gonna fall off the edge, and we're gonna lose this valuable resource because we're actually overexposing them to too much volunteering work? Or are we better to just offer little chunks of bite-sized volunteering opportunities so that I don't feel compelled to give up my weekend, but what I can do is I can give up an evening. Where instead of committing myself to maybe saying, "Oh, you know what, now going to be on this, I'm going to say the C word, I'm going to be on a committee, and that's going to require me to give up X amount of hours and amount of time and blah, blah, blah." I'm starting to see people appreciate that actually, as you just said there, just being on a focus group. That's a really good opportunity. It's an hour. I'll rock up maybe 2 hours. I'll go online and I've volunteered and I've maybe had a micro impact that'll have
Yeah.
macro outputs. And so I think how we starting to see the whole model around volunteering and how we
Yeah.
can expand and be so much more than just give up a day of your week basically to be an unpaid intern for our organization.
And we've talked about micro volunteering before. I fall out of love and back in love with micro volunteering.
Mm,
Obviously, how it's handled, the staffing and the management of it that's required. Because
yeah,
the more little jobs you create, the more training and management and oversight you have to provide. But
absolutely. Yeah,
um,
yeah,
it comes down to accountability. How is it fair for us to hold volunteers accountable? Because this is what you and I do quite a
yeah.
bit, whether it's boards, whether it's the committees, their
Uh-huh.
efficacy, their ethics, their impact. How is it fair to measure and hold accountable these volunteers when they're not given the tools? They're
Oh,
not
yes.
given the education when they are overstretched, when
Yeah.
they are asked to do things outside of their areas of expertise.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I like skill matching. I like giving people what they need, whether it's a long commitment. I like choice. I'm pro choice when it comes to volunteering.
Yeah.
Options, options, options. And I think you have to mix in the call for help, the voluntold, the skills matching, because different tasks and different commitments are different.
And mix it
But
in
back,
with, oh, sorry, go on, sorry, go on.
no, no, please.
Oh, I was going to say mix it in with the staff as well. Mix it in
Yeah.
because I mean, if you look at the whole of your workforce, be it paid, be it unpaid, I mean, it's still
Yeah.
one workforce that you can draw upon. And so, how many organizations are you seeing that actually talk about or integrate their volunteering plans into their work plan, into their action plans?
Most staff are still rolling their eyes at the pain in the butt volunteers.
Yeah,
So, there's still this cultural divide of we need
yeah.
them, we appreciate them, we're going to love them for a month out of the year,
And then we're
but
gonna,
they
yeah.
still, drive us crazy. They make our jobs harder. All this kind of behind the back complaining that staff do around the volunteers. And
Yeah,
that's the
it
challenge.
simmers. It
And
does. It simmers. It simmers. And I 100% agree with you. That tension, and it simmers on both sides. Well,
yeah,
you haven't really clearly explained to me what you want me to do. You haven't necessarily given me the tools and resources to do it. Arguably, yeah, great, but I haven't necessarily been given the tools and the resources to manage volunteers. Managing volunteers is a skill.
oh, it's
You need to be trained in it. You need to have
yes.
experience in it. You can't just rock up and say, "Oh, it's okay. They're just volunteers."
uh
Muddle along as though
no,
somehow that's okay. Particularly when we're relying so heavily on a volunteer workforce to
mhm,
deliver core value propositions. And so, and I know you do the same. Telling for people to understand that part of your core operational strategy is to have your volunteer strategy. Part of your volunteer strategy includes not just how are we going to recruit and celebrate them, but how are we going to manage them? How are we going to
yes,
train them? How are we going to support them? Who from within the staff needs resources to do that for us?
yeah,
It goes back to the piece we talk about when we've spoken about systems
yeah,
management. The
very much
volunteer
so.
piece, one part of our system. And when it begins to falter, the rest of the system begins to look a bit shaky. So, for me, I love that we're, that we're acknowledging, we're spending a month acknowledging them, acknowledging the efforts and the goodwill and the energy and the enthusiasm and the impact of volunteers. And let's carry on doing that. But actually let's integrate them more fully into our operational plans on a
Yeah,
day-to-day basis, and then it becomes so much easier, I think, for us to celebrate and acknowledge and use them, exploit them, you capitalize on their skills and expertise all year round.
we're saying professionalize your volunteer infrastructure, not
Definitely,
only
100%.
in okay, all right. So
Definitely.
I agree with this. And again, this is all spawned from a month, a week, a day where we have an excuse on the calendar
Yeah.
to say thank you.
And three buckets.
I
Three buckets. Do missed out a
three
month, a day,
buckets
a week, and three buckets.
and then elevate, celebrate, and reward.
Oh,
Those are
check
my three
you out.
buckets.
Check. Oh, right. Okay.
Sorry, are there
Elevate,
too many
celebrate,
buckets? Are
and
there too many
reward.
buckets?
There's a hole in my bucket.
Oh
Elevate,
my goodness. Dear
elevate,
Liza, get
celebrate.
out of here.
Yeah. But yeah,
All right.
I think I think how you captured it there is perfect. Professionalizing the volunteering piece is absolutely central, and again, again, we mustn't shy away from the fact. Oh, I hate it. The way we shy away. We're so grateful that someone's put their hand up to be part of our volunteering team that we just hand over the keys
They
and
could
say
be
good luck.
terrible. They could be
Yeah,
terrible.
yeah, exactly. We say there's the bank account, off you go. That for me is just it's the beginning of the end. I think it obviously if you're looking at, because let's not forget our boards of directors are all volunteers, I think the legal obligations that accompany their role makes it so much easier to hold them accountable.
Them. If we paid board members like the for-profit world does, would we then, as the organization supporting them, be more committed to training them and giving them the tools that they needed if we were investing in them financially?
I think it depends where they come from. I mean, I've worked with a couple of boards where they do pay, and they pay quite handsomely. Uh, if you've got a portfolio director for whom this is one of many, directorships that they've got on the go, they will have a level of expectation about, you know, training, development, etc. I think, however, I don't know. I think if you've not got that experience and you're coming to the table or your only experience to date has been volunteering and doing it for free, and you
You're right.
don't have,
This is a whole
so
can of worms because then you're
yeah,
going outside of your own industry for
yeah,
board members. You're looking
yeah,
to them for something different.
yeah.
They are not stewards of the community of which they are a part. They would be a different type of advisory board versus
Yes, and
governing.
there's a whole load of dynamics and issues that I've had to deal with in the
Right. I'm
past around
walking
that,
that
and it's
back.
just,
I'm
oh
walking
yeah,
that back.
yeah,
Okay, fine.
yeah.
Let's get back to appreciation. We're going to elevate, celebrate, and reward. And it's more than just April, people.
Yeah.
It's more than just April. Other countries can have other months. So maybe across all countries, maybe it really is the whole year.
So we should just do one of these every 4 weeks. We'll just celebrate it wherever we are in the world.
There you go. There you go. Well, I'm glad you're home. I'm glad you're back. Thanks for volunteering to do this with me. I mean,
What
we're
can I
kind of
say?
volunteers. We're Association Transformation volunteers.
Well, I've never made any money from it, so yeah, I guess I am, and I've never been trained for it, so yeah, I guess I'm living the volunteer dream here.
There you go. There you go. Well, let's try to be better. Maybe our next white paper would be the systems of volunteer professionalizing volunteer
Yeah.
infrastructure management, volunteer excellence through systems thinking. Get on that.
Okay, and by the way, right, so I'm trademarking, copywriting, all of that, so that if I see anybody else publishing a white paper in the next 6 weeks that looks anything like what we've just spoken about, we'll know where you got that information from.
Yeah. They do seem to be clustered. And it's not about AI. Can we just take a break on AI? Like, let's focus on people. People first. People first. Volunteers, we love you. Thank you.
Thank
Celebrate
you.
them all year round, 365, 24/7. And until next time, put your members, your mission, and your volunteers first.